Hey guys, how are you getting on? And welcome back to episode 2 of this season's ups and downs for Star Trek Lower Decks. Just really quick, just to let you know how this thing works. Some of you will know, some of you won't. We are going to go through this episode and give everything that we liked an up and everything that we didn't like a down. We are also going to run through some of the Easter eggs for this episode, and I am crying because of how many Easter eggs there are in this episode. So make sure you stick around at the end of this video for all of the Easter eggs from this one. Without further ado, I am Sean Ferrick for Trek Culture, and here is the ups and downs for Star Trek Lower Decks Season 2, Episode 2, Kayshon, His Eyes Open. Now, kicking straight in, we get a new character in, of course, Lieutenant Kayshon, which we'll get to in a second, but we have the return of a Season 1 character, and that is Ensign Jet. Now, he's voiced by Marcus Henderson, and straight away, he's getting an up from me this week. He was a great addition to the team, and it does look like for the bulk of the episode, he's going to take Boimler's place in the Lower Decks team. Now, of course, we suspect that Boimler will be back, and we will get to that as this episode goes on. Jet and Mariner bouncing off each other and the friction between them is actually quite enjoyable. Sometimes some of the arguments that Mariner can get into can seem a little bit forced or argument for argument's sake, but these two characters have such big personalities, it really makes sense. And quite frankly, that sonic shower scene was hilarious. Because we've seen sonic showers a couple of times in Star Trek before. I think Star Trek Voyager was the first time to truly show them. Well, motion picture, I guess. But this was a great scene, and everyone else running out of the poor guys with their blood running down their noses. No, that's not weird at all. Anyway, the return of Jet overall is an up from me. Listen guys, the existence of this scene is enough to confirm that there is most definitely going to be another most paused moments in Star Trek video coming on Trek Culture's channel very soon. Now, the second up of the episode goes to Lieutenant Kayshon, but not just Kayshon himself. Now, we know that the Tamarians are a race that speaks in metaphor. They were, of course, introduced back in the incredible episode of The Next Generation, Season 5, Darmok, where we got Picard's sexy jacket, but we also got Captain Dathan and the return of Paul Williams, who had previously played Captain Tyrrell. That episode was, to date, the only appearance of the Tamarians before this, and so the only experience that we had of them speaking was in metaphor. Now, we saw in the trailer for Star Trek Lower Decks that Kayshon would arrive on the bridge and announce himself with metaphor, and we do get that scene, and we then immediately get the reveal that he has been learning how to speak Federation, as he calls it, and the Universal Translator is a little bit wonky. I like that. That's an up from me, because we could have dragged that out for the whole season where everyone doesn't really understand what he's saying. Instead, they jump right in, and therefore he becomes a communicative character straight away, which means it does make it a little bit easier to warm to him, to identify with him. Now, what happens later in the episode makes it a little bit harder to identify with him, because he goes through a little bit of a change as the episode goes on. But so far, Kayshon and his semi-ability to speak English, that's an up from me. Okay, I'm just going to go out there. Here's my first down of the episode. Now, we've established that Kayshon can speak in riddles and can speak a little bit of English. So for me, the fact that one of the first things he says is Darmok and Jalad, I just felt that was a tiny little bit of low-hanging fruit. I just think we know who the Tamarians are. We know they speak in riddles. That was just a little bit too on the nose for me. That's a down. As I said, there is a potentially mind-breaking section of this video coming up where I run through the Easter eggs for this episode. But let me just say before that, this episode is a complete feast for the eyes for Trekkies everywhere. It's an up. Now, reference-heavy episodes can be a bit hit or miss. I think this one is a hit because, seriously, we went through this one frame by frame, and I'm still not sure we got all of the Easter eggs in this, but it was so much fun, and there was a little hint of excitement every time we saw something else. So for that alone, this episode, I feel, easily must have the most Easter eggs of any property of anything ever That's an up from me. My inner fanboy is very, very happy with this episode. Now, of course, we get a couple of references again to the Lower Decks gang talking about how much fun Boimler must be having on the Titan, to then immediately cut to Boimler being absolutely terrified on the Titan. Now, I'm enjoying this because this is pure Boimler. He's trying his best. He's Boimling his way through it. And it seems like that's not going to cut it on the Titan. And particularly, so all of this together, but what's getting the particular up from me for this scene is Boimler in the observation lounge going through the briefing with Riker and the rest of the Titan bridge crew. And he's writing down every word to the point where he writes down, "I'm writing down every word." It's fun. It is purely in character. And it's also, everyone else, no one's making fun of him for it. It's, okay, this is just his quirk. Now, he doesn't really have time for it, but he's accepted for what it is. It just goes to show, again, Riker, good captain, good crew, even if they are polar opposites from the crew of the Cerritos. There is one down about the Titan this week, and that is no Councillor Troy. Mike McMahon did address before that there was probably not going to be any Marina Sirtis in season 2. He suggested that it was just, they just couldn't kind of work it into the story. Now, if we look at the way the years line up, this is of course early 2380s, which means potentially Troy is pregnant with Thad Riker at this point. I don't think Lower Decks wants to touch that storyline because we know where that's going. Now, I might be totally wrong and, you know, we might get lots of Thad in the next few seasons. But for now, I just thought the down was that you teased us with her in the season finale. We've had 2 episodes now where we feature the Titan and no more Troy. So that's a down from me. Now, going back over to the museum. Now, I could, and I will, individually break down every one of these Easter eggs, but one of these is getting a special shout out. And it's an up, but it's a dark up. This one's dark, guys. This is where they go into the next room full of skeletons, and it's the frickin' giant Spock from the Infinite Vulcan episode of the animated series. This is dark. I enjoyed it, but it's dark. But that one, I was like, oh, that has to get a special shout out. It's getting it up because it's been suspended from the ceiling as well. Oh. Now, toward the end of this scene, where the Lower Decks gang are stuck in that diorama from the Savage Curtain, Mariner and Jet have a bonding moment where they realise that they're not in charge of this scenario. They can't get themselves out of here, but Rutherford and Tendi probably can, and they then do. Now, I've been saying for ages that I want more things for Rutherford and Tendi to do, and this episode delivered on that. So that is another up from me. I'm really, really happy that it was their know-how that got them out of this particular jam. More Rutherford and Tendi, more ups from me. Back then to the Titan crew, and they've gone down to that mining planet to rescue the people from the Pakleds, and we get, of course, again, Easter eggs, but we get sort of a sequel-ish rehash more of the episode's Second Chances of TNG, which of course is the episode that introduces Thomas Riker, Riker's transporter clone. What happens in this episode? We get William Boimler, Boimler's transporter clone. It's actually brilliant. It's done really, really well. There's a little suggestion of, you know, new Boimler. William Boimler is the cooler Boimler. He's totally happy staying on the Titan, even though Bradford is less happy. This whole scene was a lot of fun. It's great to see, in a way, you get to have your cake and eat it too. And we knew that Boimler was going to end up back on the Cerritos in some way. So I, for one, am really, really happy with how this has worked out. It's an up from me. I very much support as many clones as possible. Really, really loving it. Final up of the episode. Is it Boimler getting back? No. Is it the last exchange with Kayshon? No. It's addressing the inconsistency with pips throughout all of Star Trek. Jet is eating some sweet corn. He gets a sweet corn on his collar and he suddenly has 2 pips. Rutherford says, oh, you got promoted 2 bumps? And Jet says, no, what are you talking about? Well, you've got 2 gold pips. And Jet's like, oh, no. Anytime you see somebody with extra pips, that's probably just sweet corn. Up. Up, 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 up. I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, the time has come. That side and that side is all of the Easter eggs. May fortune favour the foolish. Let's go. Folks, there was not a prayer I was going to be able to learn all of these off. I have 58 Easter eggs on this list. Let's do this. Sonic shower scene, Collector's Guild from the Most Toys, Lumpy Clay Picard from the Pegasus episode Captain Picard Day, The Game from The Game, the Armin Shimmerman box from Haven, Baseball Hat and Ball, DS9, Taxidermied Salt Vampire, The Man Trap, Riker's Trombone, Roman Statue for Whom One's for Adonis, Khan's Necklace, interesting one, that one got vaporized in the Genesis explosion? Interesting. Could be a bigger story there. Terran Empire flag, Disaster Boy from the SS Valiant from Where No Man Has Gone Before, Mugatu skull mounted, Crusher's sex candle. We have Miggly Moo on the bridge, which is clearly a reference to Councillor Troy. We have the Collector's Guild trying to collect data called out in the opening scene. Darmok and Jalad, as we have already mentioned. Suck up at Tanagra. One of my favourite lines of the episode. We have a Cadiscat board. We have Ira Graves' burial chamber. My god, that's a deep cut. We have the Kurlan Naskios. We have the Vulcan Logician's hat. That's from Take Me Out to the Holosuite in DS9. We have a box of Chateau Picard. We have the Disruptor from Star Trek Insurrection. We have a sensual painting of a Binar hanging up overneath the doorway. We have Data's poker visor. We have a call out to a top-notch menagerie, which is a shout out to the original pilot, The Cage, and when it was reworked into the Menagerie. We have the tri-pronged engineering tool. We have Tuvok's candle for meditation. We have a copy of the book Hotel Royale, and we have a Kolinar pendant just underneath that. We have Odo's bucket and a Horta egg. Now, we have a row of something that could be the Harvesters from DS9's The Armageddon game, or it could also be bottles of wine. Either or. We have Kirk's spectacles dropped on the floor. We have a Kelvin. We called him out in the Lower Decks trailer. We have Data's masks from the episode Masks. We have Neelix's apron. For God's sake, guys. We have many call-outs to the Enterprise D, including what they did with daycare centres, different dimensions, when they insurrected, and when they had string quartets playing on the Enterprise. Giant Spock already called out. Gorn's skeleton. Another Mugatu skeleton. Now, we have a diorama from the episode The Savage Curtain that features Abraham Lincoln impaled with a stick and the Excalbian Yarnek model standing beside him. We have the Packlads firing Klingon disruptors. We have lots of calls out to Second Chances and Thomas Riker. We have a call out to Riker acting in plays on the Enterprise D. Now, there's one call out which I took as a reference to Doctor Who, which is when Boimler says he's reversing the polarity of the drill. Might not be Doctor Who, but come on, it's Doctor Who. We also have a bottle of Saurian brandy in Riker's ready room. We have a Horgon in Riker's ready room. We have a model of the USS Pegasus sitting on his desk next to a cap that probably came from his great-grandfather Thaddeus Riker, which we saw in a picture in the Star Trek Voyager episode Death Wish. We have literal discs, jazz discs on the wall behind them, and Riker asked the computer to play Nightbird, which was the jazz piece of music he was struggling to learn for 10 years by the time Troy asks him to play it in the episode Second Chances. And of course we have call-outs to the Pips. Boom. I'm quite proud of that, I'm not gonna lie. And that's it for everything today, guys. If you reckon we missed anything, which in fairness, we might have, please let us know in the comments below. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Remember, you can catch us over on Twitter at Trek Culture. You can catch myself at Sean Ferrick over there as well. Whatever you do in the meantime, make sure you enjoy it. Enjoy Lower Decks. We're 2 for 2, and I think it's only getting better as it goes each time. You're all awesome. Live long and prosper, and thanks so much for stopping by.